Hi, Christy.
Hi, Chelsea.
So happy Friday, at least is when we're recording this.
Yes.
Yeah, we're so that was our intro for our first episode of our
Yes.
podcast. We're so excited. We have officially decided on the name, the Creative Download.
Download.
So
Yes.
excited.
Yes.
And yeah, so we're excited to have you guys with us, and welcome to all of our listeners, and hoping that y'all share this with I would say other creatives, but really with anybody, because it's kind of the goal
Everyone's
of our
creative.
exactly. That's the goal of our podcast is the creativity. So
Yes.
and helping bring that out in people. So yes, so I am Chelsea Nettleton.
And I'm Christy Bruno.
Yeah, and we're so excited to get this starting.
Should we tell a
Started.
little bit about ourselves just on the
Yeah.
first podcast? This
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
episode.
So they
You
know
go first, Chelsea.
So they know a little bit about who these crazy ladies are that are
Yes.
talking to them. So I actually, I was really proud of myself. I actually I've been working on my music website, which just a little, I'm just going to throw that out there. It's chelseanettleton.com. If you want to follow along with music, the first song up there is the song we just listened to.
Nice.
And
so I like for that.
Thank you. I was, it's, I think every creative and every person really in their own way, shape or form understands it is terrifying to put something out there that is it's so personal, but also trying to let go of it and let it be what it needs to be, so I'm really proud of myself just for that alone, to let it go, and let it be what it is. But,
yes.
Yeah. So I like to say that I was a creative. I've been a creative since I was born. Okay, maybe it didn't start manifesting until I was old enough to do something with it. But I used to, dance around. I'd play dress up and I would sing along. I wouldn't just lip sync. I'd sing along with whatever was on the radio. And then I started realizing my love for music and started really getting into it. I mean, I made fake microphones and everything. I have a picture that's my brother likes to joke that he'll blackmail me with it, because it's me in just a terrible 80s outfit. I'm using a screwdriver for a microphone, flipped upside down. I know I'm not the only one that's done that. And I know what song I'm singing along to. It was a Wilson Phillips song. And ever since then, I've realized, I love creating, but it's not just music. I mean, I love, like, music is my heart and soul, but a very close second is, writing. And of course, we'll talk later about the stuff that you and I are working on. And, but I'm, creative to the core. I write, I have a nonfiction book I'm working on. we have, some scripts that we're working on, that Christy and I are working on. I've had some stuff, and then of course music. So
yeah,
that's me. I'm here in good old Colorado, enjoying some unseasonably warm weather, which is nice because I can go out and take my lovely dog Zoe for a walk. I live here with my husband, Dan. How about you?
Yeah. Well, we just have connected so well because we have such a similar background. But yes, I too am a creative, and creatives, it never stops as long as we're here, right? We just keep creating, and whether it starts when we're young, which most of us are more in touch with our creativity when we're young. So yes, I have a similar story. I grew up with a dad who was really into music and played music all the time. And so I used a hairbrush as a little kid. And anyone that would come over, I would sit them down. I grew up in the 70s as a little kid in Arizona, and I would sit them down, and my parents were young, and I had a teenage aunt, and their friends would come over, and they would sit on the couch, and I would sing Cher. Cher was I wanted to be Cher. Yeah. I loved the Sonny and Cher show, and I would sing Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. That was my first song that I would sing at 2 and 3. I'd memorize the songs, and then my mom put me in a pageant when I was 3, which she really wanted me to be a pageant girl, and that is not who I am. But and I wrote a story about this, but as soon as I got into line and I saw his microphone, that's all I could think about, is getting that microphone from him. And so when I got on stage, I slowly moved in and moved the microphone to my hand and grabbed it and said, "Do y'all want to hear a song?" And I was 3, and I sang a song about my dogs and cats that I had made up, and I won the pageant.
God, I love that.
Yeah, but that wasn't good. Winning the pageant was not the win for me. Singing in the microphone for me was the win, but winning the pageant was the win for my mom. And and so then they put me in another pageant, and then I realized, ooh, no, I'm a songwriter. I'm not
Right.
an entertainer. That's like that's and it took me a long time to realize that. So yeah, I'm a singer, a songwriter, also a writer, love poetry, dancer. I really actually ended up becoming more of a dancer. I was fortunate enough to have dance offered instead of PE in junior high and high school.
Oh,
And
nice.
so I just danced all my youth. And so, and then, you know, I have to give my dad a lot of credit for my music in the sense that if anyone talks about my dad, they will tell you that the music was a big part of our life. Patsy Cline, Roy Orbison, Linda Ronstadt was a regular player, Carly Simon. So I grew up with all these he listened to a lot of female singer-songwriters.
Oh,
And they
nice.
really influenced my music. And then I really didn't even come into that until I was in my mid-20s. I live in San Diego. I've been in San Diego 30 years, married a surfer, so I'm never leaving. But I actually landed in a spot that really supports songwriters and singer-songwriters. It was the place Jewel launched from. I got to be on in the singer-songwriter rounds. Here in San Diego are a little different than Nashville, but Jason Mraz showed up before he was famous, and he watched him take flight. So there's a lot of Steve Poltz. There's a lot of people I've been around watching, and it's very supportive. So. And now, you know, we're doing music totally different than the way we did it in the 90s.
Right?
So I love that we're back. And I meeting you in one of these communities of writers all over the world really get together. So, and now doing podcasts, it's just a different world. I'm so excited to talk about your song today that you're releasing. And so that's a little bit about me and my background. And now we can like get on with the good stuff, which is a song release today.
So well, the good stuff. I mean, I love hearing your backstory. I mean, we've talked a little bit about it. We've known each other for almost a year now.
I know.
Right? I was thinking
Yeah.
about that. I was like, oh my gosh, time flies.
Yeah.
And we had no idea how much we'd have in common, to the point where right now you do real estate and I do real estate media.
Yes.
But in our own
Yes, I
respective
forgot to
places.
add that. I do make money a lot in real estate, so I can do my music. And you too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do the media, which I'll add that to my bio. You know, I'm a photographer as well, videographer. I'm teaching myself to draw. I used to say that I couldn't draw for crap, but I actually have drawn a couple things. I learned how to draw a turtle the other day, and I was very excited about it.
Yeah.
But you know, like you said earlier, I mean, just creativity, it just doesn't stop. Like it just, there's so many outlets for it. Well, cool. I hope, you know, and we're open books, you know, I guess I shouldn't say we're completely open books. There are questions that we probably wouldn't feel comfortable answering, but you know, if you guys have any questions or anything, we're going to have our website up here soon and our social media, you know, please feel free, like jump on there if you have any questions or, you know, the one thing we can't really share yet, which we're excited about, we can tell you that we're working on a TV series together.
Oh my God.
We can't share what it is and the concept and everything just until we get it a little bit more finalized and out there. So as soon as we can, you guys will be the first to hear about it. So, but otherwise, you know, if you have questions on what projects we're working on or, you know, the creative process or how we got started or how we, you know, push through, like, well, and on that note, that's the point of this podcast. There's our love of creativity. We know that that creativity gets pushed down so badly in this world. So this podcast is for the brand new, quote unquote, brand new beginner creative, all the way up to if you're a rock star already and you just need some inspiration or you need a community of other creatives. That's our goal. So we're going to be talking about tips, tricks, you know, things, you know, how to overcome roadblocks. We're going to have guests on here ranging from somebody who maybe they're just a hobbyist, but being a hobbyist at what they love helps them get through their day to day. You know, maybe we'll have people like that all the way up to, you know, a showrunner for a TV series, you know, or a famous dancer. I mean, you know, I'm excited about the possibilities. So, and we'll of course touch on what we work on from week to week, and our projects and stuff. So, and am I forgetting anything about what?
Well, no, but I just want to add something, and you kind of touched on it, but I want to add that, like, I feel like in our culture, we focus so much on the end result. We focus so much on the finished product.
Yes.
And I'm excited we can talk about this around your song a little bit too, because you have such a beautiful finished product right now, but the amount of stuff that goes into the work to get there, we don't always see. And like you already noted, a lot of our art programs in schools, unless you go to a specific art school, you don't get to have that. I was fortunate to get to have dance for PE and high school, and that doesn't exist where I am unless you go to a creative performing arts school. You're a dancer, let's just use that. Where do you go? You know, like San Diego has, you know, a couple of great dance studios to go to, but you often look at the finished product as opposed to the creative process. And I think that the creative process for us creatives, like for me as a songwriter, the songwriting process is my favorite part. It's not so much how many streams I get on Spotify. I mean, it's exciting to see like, oh, people in Brazil love this song. Like that's exciting, but that's a fleeting moment. It's not the actual process of connecting to myself, connecting to creativity, connecting to the people I am collaborating with. That is exciting. That's why the TV, like, I'm curious to see how we do with the, you know, when it's done and it's out. Is it going to, we're probably going to be writing something else. Well, let's talk about today we have like two things, right? We're going to talk about your song release, which is so amazing. It's releasing today. And then we're going to talk, I'm not in that place right now. I'm moving, I'm doing all this other stuff that how do I stay in the momentum with creativity when life is right now going and could easily pull me away. So we have two totally different topics, which I love because it just taps into really like you have a finished product that we're going to talk about in the behind the scenes on that a little bit. Yeah. But also how am I keeping going? So I'm excited about today.
Me too. Yeah. So the song that we listened to, or the song that was the intro, it's called Still Your Only One. And I co-wrote that with Peter Dolan, and his publishing company is Circle of Thirds. Let's see, Pete and I met around the same time you and I did, actually, because it was in the same coffee meetup, which is so funny to me that I have two very strong collaborators from how many? There was 8 of us in there maybe when we first met.
That's it, right? You just keep showing up. That's part of it.
That's a really good point.
And you just talk about creativity. I mean, that's what it was. We were doing like a coffee meeting, a lot like what we're doing right now. But where is Pete? He's not.
So Pete's in Chicago.
That's right.
Yeah. So I've got you on the Pacific. I've got him in Central. I have another couple of co-writers that are in Pittsburgh, so it's really cool. Like that's one thing I want to say about this song and collaborating in general is we're no longer bound by our areas. Like I live in a small mountain town in Colorado, yes, there are creatives here. And I finally have been connected with a couple of people here. But it's not a music town per se. Like it's really not. It is gorgeous here and it's a great place for inspiration, but yet I have these, because of the internet and because of technology now, I'm able to collaborate with people in, San Diego and in Chicago and Pittsburgh and stuff. So don't let yourself be limited by your location. And I will say this too, I have tried moving and by tried, I mean, I actually moved to Nashville 3 different times, over the course of my 20s, trying to figure out how to make music happen, thinking that that's where I had to be. And this is a story for another time, but I had a lot of health issues in my 20s after I came down with mono when I was 18. And that really, I don't know why, but that really put a damper on a lot of things I was trying to do. But I'm doing better now near my family in a town that I love with my creativity and my projects than I was in Nashville. And shout out to Nashville. It's beautiful there. Like it's a really cool town.
Yeah, I love it.
But I don't like, again, going back to that creative spirit, that's not where I'm supposed to be. I may go visit. I may end up, going out there for, collaborating, songwriting, whatever. But that's not where I'm like, I don't want to move there. And same thing with LA. I mean, as far as like my background, I've got my master's in screenwriting.
Yes.
Realizing when I finish my degree, I don't want to move to LA. Like that's not where my husband and I belong.
And isn't that fun that we're doing a TV pilot, but you get to be in Colorado?
Yeah. So Pete and I met through a coffee, an online coffee group.
And it's a coffee group. Let me just add, like it's a coffee group of songwriters. Like that was really the main focus of that group. So it was really basically like musicians, songwriters, lyricists, coming together, producers, coming together to have a coffee to talk about that process of songwriting. So I just wanted to, because we're kind of talking about all the different creativity. So I wanted to
and that's
talk
a good
about that coffee.
That's a good call because we absolutely want to make sure that every creative, doesn't matter what your passion is welcome into this podcast
Yeah.
and into the community. Because everything, there are universal truths to being a creative and how
Yes.
to manifest that, no matter like, we'll just say in advance, we are songwriters, musicians, singers, and script writers, so that's the thing that we will gravitate towards, but we desperately want all creatives to feel welcome
Yeah.
in this podcast, because it doesn't, there are some universal truths to all art, to all creative,
Yes.
and our passion is to help other artists, no matter what you do, find ways to break through the blocks so he and I have been co-writing now. I think we really jumped on and started co-writing maybe like in April of last year. And it was funny because he'd only really been in the coffee group maybe twice. He was able to come. Work wouldn't let him. And I remember I was working in an office at the time, and I would take my lunch breaks early to be able to be in coffee group, and I'd go in the conference room, and I'm in my work, jumping on these calls, and I'm so thankful I did, because I happened to be on one of the ones he was on, and he was talking about trying to find collaborators. Like, he didn't want to necessarily work on music on his own anymore. Like, he's realizing the power of collaboration. And so he reached out to me when I told him I was a singer-songwriter, and it's kind of the rest is history. Like, we connected. That's something we'll talk about in the future. I'm sure we'll have a whole episode or maybe a couple of them on collaborating, right? Because you and I understand the importance of finding the right collaborators, and not forcing it when it's not the right. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong, but you and I both have said we don't really want to do anything anymore without other creative. Like, we want to collaborate moving forward.
Yeah.
Two creatives are so much better than one for the most part. And it's very fulfilling. I love working with you. Like, when we were getting together on Friday mornings already, you and I would walk away from those just so like motivated and excited,
Yes.
So, but anyways, so yeah. So Pete's worked on his own stuff. I've worked on my own stuff. This is kind of how it started. He had a couple guitar riffs, and we wrote one song. There was one guitar riff that I was like, "Ooh, I really like that. Let's expand that." And when I heard his guitar lick, I immediately started hearing lyrics in my head. And so that's when I was like, okay, this one's hitting me. Let's work on this one.
The download happened, right?
Download happened. Exactly. Hence our name, the Creative Download. We both want to help, download creative ideas and tips and tricks, but it's also about us as creatives. When that download happens, when it hits, when you're like, ooh, here it is. He expanded the guitar riff into kind of a verse section and chorus section. We kind of worked on that together over Zoom, and then he sent it my way to and I focused on the lyrics and the melody, which basically, like, we have, we each have our own strong suits, but we also have some overlapping. So he's a phenomenal guitarist and musician, but we both love working on lyrics. When I brought him back the lyrics and the melody ideas, he gave me feedback and was like, "Ooh, hey, what do you think about this?" And that made what I'd come up with stronger. I had a different third verse. And he pointed out, hey, for our theme, maybe we need to focus on this for the third verse. And he was spot on, and I wouldn't have seen that without him. So that's, again, we will continually encourage collaboration here. But I mean, because everything that happened with the song, literally this song would not have come to life without Pete and I working together. So and then now it's out on all the streaming sites. It's called Still Your Only One. Oh, this is one thing I wanted to say about our podcast too, is starting where you are.
Yes. We talked a lot about that in our coffee meetup, because everybody was in a different place, right? When we came to this coffee meetup, some people were getting back into music. Some people had already been, producing for a while or whatever, writing, putting out songs. So yeah, just starting where you're at. and moving forward and not looking at like, well, I'm not over here, which I struggled with a
Yes.
ton.
Oh
Like I
man.
thought I should be further along. And it was like,
Right.
no, just meet yourself where you're at. Judy said that to me over and over, which is now my intention of the year. But yeah,
Yes.
meet yourself where you're at and go from
Yourself where
there.
you're at. You and I were talking earlier about how, once we kind of figure out, we know our title, but we're like, you know what, we just need to start this podcast.
Yes.
We don't have our logo finished out. We don't have
No,
our artwork yet,
we're just
but
doing it
we're
like our Friday coffee, our Friday meeting,
exactly.
creative meeting.
Exactly, inviting anybody out there that wants to listen. And maybe next time, if you're watching the YouTube, maybe next time, you'll see a sign on our back walls that will literally be printed on paper if we figure out our logo by then, that we'll put on the wall until we can afford to make like an official, pretty, maybe a neon sign, you know
Yes.
but that's one cool thing about, I think, you and I working together is we encourage each other, like, meet yourself where you're at and do what you can with what you've got. you know
Yes.
we I had microphone and stuff set up. I know you had to get a different microphone, but otherwise we didn't do anything. We didn't pay any money yet for updated equipment. We didn't stop ourselves from jumping into this until we had the killer layout. I'm in a little second bedroom in our house,
I'm
and
in
I
my
know you're.
dining room right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're moving. So I don't know
And
what
you're
it'll look
moving.
like next time, but yeah.
Right. So that's a big encouragement out there is, meet yourself where you're at. There's something to be said for just do it, just
Yeah.
start where you can. Now, I think there's a balance there, and that'll probably be a whole other episode. There's a balance of maybe your song isn't ready to necessarily stream yet, but don't stop yourself from pursuing it. Even if you can't play guitar super well, get your stuff down, whatever you can to record it. Or if you're a painter and you think you're terrible, just keep going because you will
Yeah.
get better and better. But
Well, and I think that's like since you're doing a song release, we could actually talk about a little bit of like the very beginning stages of the song before
yeah,
before you play the finished product. Because when, we listen to a song, most of the time when songwriters are going to release a song, it has been through a number of revisions.
yes.
But the beginnings of writing a song, like, so when you and Pete got together the first time, maybe describe like what it is that you did to get that, because get the lyrics and the original beginnings of the melody. Like you had the guitar riff, which I love. That was one of the first things I wrote down. Love the guitar riff, and it's
Yeah.
so
Oh,
important.
yay.
Guitar is so important to me and
Yeah.
songs. I love the guitar. But then there's like when you're doing the first parts of a song, it's not going to sound like, this is what I used to tell my songwriting students, because I taught songwriting to middle schoolers and a lot of 7-year-olds that wanted to be Taylor Swift at one point. And they wanted to sound like Taylor Swift in their first song. And it was really important for them to know that this is the rough draft. You're doing the rough draft. So like explain your rough draft. Like how did you do that? What did you record it on? I know people ask me that,
Yeah.
that are maybe poets that are turning into songwriters, and like what was the first piece that you used when you started the song?
That's a great question. One big thing I learned from grad school was there has to be, not just that there will be, but there has to be what is, I didn't coin this. Many people have heard this term, vomit draft. Literally,
Ah,
like you are just throwing it up onto the paper, whatever comes to mind. This is a funny thing, but other creatives out there, I know you appreciate this. Like it's taken me forever to figure out how I work best.
yeah.
And I love spirals. And I realized I need blank paper, not lined, for
Oh
my
yeah. Yeah, you've
creativity.
said that.
Yeah, it's taken me a while. So I literally had a blank piece of paper. And the big thing, again, learning this from grad school, I knew it before, but grad school really like drilled it into my head, which was so helpful. Turn off your inner critic. When you're doing that first vomit draft, your editor goes away. Actually, I like to say, and I want to say, I think this was in
The
Big
Artist's
Magic.
Way.
Or art, it was Artist Way. Okay.
Yeah.
Which again,
That'll be our book recommendation at the end of
Yes.
this, if you want, because you're
Good
doing,
call.
if you can't go to grad school, you can't go to college. Because I totally get that. I would have gone to school for dance.
Right.
But my family was like, oh yeah, no. I wanted to be J-Lo. I wanted to be J-Lo in Living Color is what my goal
Oh
was
man,
at
yeah.
18. So, but my family was having none of that. So you know, if you can't go to grad school or go to college for art, you can still learn how to
Absolutely.
build your creativity. And The Artist's Way is a fantastic book. So we can talk about that recommendation at the
I
end.
love
But
that.
yes, she talks about getting rid of you can't let that inner critic
Yeah.
in the beginning process in.
And is she the one that talks about, because I mean, I've talked with a lot of people about The Artist's Way, and I read it, and yes, I would highly encourage it. And honestly, I had some the professors that I had in grad school, I wouldn't take that back for
Yeah.
any money, you know, the people that I got to learn from.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily recommend going to grad school or even college sometimes for some of these things that you can now learn. You know, if you're really passionate and you know what you want to do, like there's things I wish I'd done differently, you know, and hadn't racked up a bunch of student loan debt. That's a whole other, you know, again, another episode. But
Live and learn. We live and learn.
Live and learn, and we will share our, you know, the mistakes we've made that hopefully might keep some of you younger folks from, you know, making the same mistakes. But yeah, and so it was either in The Artist's Way or it was somebody talking about The Artist's Way and kind of rewording it, almost like inviting. I want to say Mike Myers that I did some music coaching with, said take the critic, take your editor. They're going to come along. It's hard to say I'm just going to get rid of them.
Yeah,
that's almost impossible, right? So what he and I think The Artist's Way recommended was, okay, they come along. They're along for the ride, but they are in the back seat. They have duct tape on their mouths, and they're literally got their hands tied behind their backs. So you know that they're there, but you literally you can shove them in the trunk if you need. You know, for me, that's a helpful visual where it's like, yeah, I know they're there, but they're not allowed to say anything. You know, the editor will be very helpful later. The critic will be very helpful later. But for the vomit draft, so I had this blank piece of paper, literally started writing out all the things that the instrumental that he created, and I listened to those, you know, numerous times. And as I was listening, I would just kind of write down thoughts, phrases, lyrics, words, themes that came to mind for me. And that's kind of how it started developing into this. Like I kept hearing it as a love song, and not like a, you know, I want to be with you love song, but a re-upping of our of love, you know.
Yes.
And yeah, so that's basically how that got started. And then I let the inner critic and inner editor, you know, out. I unlocked them from the trunk, you know, let them come to play. And then we started, you know, gathering verses and choruses and, you know, things like that. The one thing I will say is I have learned over time with Mike Myers and with Judy, like, and also shout out to Chris Bradley. I don't know if you know her, but she has a produce like a boss.
Oh, okay.
That she was probably one of the first programs that I bought, and I really like her stuff. And she's the first place I really heard about what's called active listening. So that's been a really big thing.
Yes.
And finding a reference song. I didn't realize the importance of that. Now I know there are some believers out, like creators out there, that are staunch believers in you have to have a reference song. I don't know that I would go that far, because there have been times when something's come to mind that I don't have a reference for. So, you know, again, that'll be another song, or, you know, episode for another day. But what I do find interesting is I did start writing this, brought it to Pete. We kind of went back and forth on some things. And then I did actually find a reference song that I was like, oh my gosh, this has been in my head. I do have a reference song for it. I just didn't realize it. And it was interesting because when I was struggling with the third verse, I realized, oh, there was a Civil War song. So I was like, oh my gosh, this reference song, this is a Civil War song, ended up being my reference song, especially to write that third verse. And so that, you know, popped everything into place. Basically at that point, it was kind of going back and forth, refining melodies, you know, literally down to, hey, Pete would be like, hey, you know, you're taking it down here. What if you took this note up? You know, and, you know, if you're not a songwriter or musician, you know, relate it to your own art. Sometimes those teeny tiny little details can make all the difference in the world. Mm-hmm. And then we got to a point where we're like, okay, you know what, this is a difficult thing for me as a perfectionist. I think a lot of artists are, which is why we also struggle to do our art, is when is it finished? you know what? It'll never be finished. But we got it like anything. It'll never be finished.
Yeah, you could
keep
go
working on it.
redo that song in
Yeah.
in many different
Yeah,
ways that you're
exactly.
releasing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we got to a point where like, okay, we're really happy with where it's at. We literally just worked on guitar, melody and lyrics. Once we got to a point where we're happy with that, that's when we said, okay, let's start putting this together. Let's start producing this out, which he and I used the skills that we have so that we did end up hiring a musician to play the drums for us. But we literally jumped on, he has a drummer that he's used just through Fiverr.
Oh,
So it was
okay.
cool. It wasn't super expensive. He loved the song.
Fiverr is a great
Yeah.
tool to use for so
Yeah.
much for artistic, all
my
kinds of
gosh.
art, like really
Yes.
Fiverr singers, you can, but even like in the
Truly.
artists, or there's so much that you can get out of Fiverr. And it's
Yeah. And again, we're not
Fiverr
sponsored by them.
with a double R, Fiverr with a double R at the end. But
And then, I'm not a phenomenal piano player. But I play well enough.
is that you playing piano?
That's me
'Cause
playing.
I wondered.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the funny thing is that's me playing not in one take though. I mean, I used my MIDI keyboard so that I could this is my skill level. But again, we met ourselves where we were at. I laid down the left hand and then I laid down the right hand and kind of adjusted it, and
Well, that's a whole skill in itself. That's a different skill of doing, because that's the beauty of music right now. I mean, if you listen, if you watch, there's a clip on Instagram of Billie Eilish's brother, and I forget his name because he's so talented, and I feel
oh my
bad.
gosh, ridiculously talented.
I don't know which song he's talking about, but he's going through all the takes that they do to get the song. And it's like, that's what music is like now. And it's what we're hearing, and it's okay. There's a lot of old friends and musicians who I know have put in decades of practice and work in their instrument, and that is not to go unrecognized.
Right.
And there are always going to be the need for those like dedicated musicians. We just also have the ability to create music digitally in a way.
I hadn't thought about it like that. For us, this was meeting where we were at, what we could afford. We could afford to hire a drummer because I think he literally was like $100 or $150.
Gotta love those drummers. Yeah.
Yeah. And my always, so just for you phenomenal musicians out there, my first choice would always be to have professional musicians. I wish I could have afforded to hire a phenomenal piano player, to add to this song. And down the road, that's the goal,
Yeah.
But again, it's going back to the meeting ourselves where we are and what we could afford to do and not do. And it was good for me because
I think it sounds great. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it pushed me to it helps me work on my skills, the things that I want to do. I like to call myself a budding producer because that's one thing that I want to do besides just doing music. Like not just writing it and creating it, but I want to actually produce it, and eventually maybe for other people. So that helped me learn just that little bit of skill.
Well, and I love that you mentioned the perfectionist and that you pushed through that.
Yeah.
And just did your piano part.
Yep.
With what you had, because that also needs to get like put in the back trunk to sometimes the perfectionist, because it will be a block. And so I just want to say kudos to you for that and moving through that, because it sounds great.
So I'm very excited. So it is, today's Friday, January 17th when we're recording this. So it did come out today. It's on all the streaming platforms. Take a listen and let us know what you think. And do
you want to play a little bit? Can you play just a little bit for us?
Sure.
Yes. Let's hear like the beginning and that guitar riff. And I love that chorus that you did. So.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it. How about we do an
that.
intro through into the chorus?
Yes.
if you asked me to, forever I'd stay wrapped up here with you, just getting lost in time. Nothing else matters in this moment but me and you. I wanna feel your arms around me. I need to know that you still love me. And when the moon makes way for the sun, I need to know I'm still your only one. Still your only one.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Again, the process and the journey was fantastic and hard. And I'm so thankful for Pete because he's very good at deadlines. He's very good at, hey, let's have this done by this and this. That's
Yeah.
not one of my strong suits. Well, I should say deadlines are my strong suit. I do well with deadlines. I don't do well setting them, especially if it's just me. And again, that's where that collaboration, basically turns into kind of an accountability thing too.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, so like a release date is also always, if you can
Yeah.
set, together with a team, like, okay, we want to release this for this, or maybe you're an artist and you're like, you know what, I want to have a little show. I have a
Yeah.
dear friend who's an artist. She's a painter. And every month she had a studio. She's in Illinois. And
Nice.
there was an art studio that was kind of like did an opening. Artists could pay to do their artwork in the studio, and then once a month they had a show.
I love that.
And so she was always like, had in the back of her head, at the end of the month, there's a show of what pieces am I going to be finished
Yeah.
to put out on display. And I think that's so fabulous because as artists, no matter if it's songwriter, artist, writer, sometimes it can be so isolating. As a
Yes.
songwriter, we can work with a team and musicians and stuff. But like if you're an artist, you're a painter,
Yeah.
what a beautiful way to be able to like have a deadline, you know what I mean? To like show your art
Yeah.
and so having a release date is great. And I want to say your vocals were amazing. And I know there's like a whole history on vocals, and maybe we'll do that in another
Yeah, totally could.
podcast, because I know the work that you've put in to get those vocals is
Yep.
is dedication and work and listening, active listening, and trying to not to get stuck in one style necessarily.
Yes.
So I know, like, I just know the work that you've put into this song. So it's
you.
beautiful, beautiful finished product for what it is today. And
Thank you. Yeah, and it'll be neat to see down the road, as our music progresses and stuff.
yeah,
Yep.
so kudos to you, Chelsea, for your release. And
Thank you.
I'm so happy for you and excited to see the songs that keep coming, because I know you guys will
Yeah.
write more songs. We'll see if if we write any songs for the TV series. You see, who knows? We're
That'll be
both doing some of that right now too. So, it's all good stuff. But yeah.
So, Christy, I know your life is pretty crazy right now, but you're still able to find time for your art. So I'm excited to hear about how you're doing that. And I know, our listeners would feel the same way, like want to know, like, how do you find the time even when you've got all these things on your plate? So what all is going on right now, like in your life?
Yeah, well, I do work in real estate, and I work in a very busy office. I've been on the same team for 13 years, and they're very successful but very creative. It's like creatives find each other. Our lead agent, she's in her mid 80s, and she's a ballroom dancer.
That's
And
right.
she dances all the time. So, balance is really important. So, and I'm so grateful to be on their team because of that, like fun, balance, work. But when work happens, it's the beginning of the year. And a lot of times our business gets busy right after the holidays. And so I have a couple clients that I'm working with. And so, real estate transactions are very, time consuming in the sense that you have a short window of time to get a lot of things done. And so, in the past, I've really struggled with being able to keep the momentum of my creativity that I have going when that happens. And so the change really is that I have collaborators. I mean, I have to just say it's collaboration, because when I'm on my own, I will, oh, I'll put that aside. I'll put that song aside and I'll work on that later. So what's changed this year? And we're moving.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way.
We're moving. I keep forgetting that. I guess maybe because I help people around buying and selling all the
True.
time.
It's kind of part of your life.
And luckily we're not moving far, and we're moving into a great little spot, and it'll actually free up some of, it'll give me a little bit more freedom even in the future stuff with writing. So my goal this year, my intentions this year, were to meet myself where I'm at, keep growing and keep my momentum going, because I've had it happen so many times in the 30 years I've been writing songs and releasing music over that 30-year span, that life happens and then all of a sudden that's the first thing I put aside. Now, becoming a mom, I did, becoming a mom and all that is, I have a son who's now 19, and so I don't have the like responsibilities that I had, for the last 18 years. So collaboration, I meet with you every Friday and we're doing our collaboration. And I know, like, in the back of my mind, I have, okay, we have some stuff we're working on, and I have my part to play. Right.
Yeah.
And then I have a writing team like you do with Pete. I have there's three of us. So we have a musician, George, and I have a lyricist, Lori, and myself on the top liner. And we meet on Thursdays and we're getting through songs. We have like 4 songs that we've written, and now we're in the process of doing the production side of each one.
Nice.
And so we're about to release the first one that we did. However, that part we're going to slow down just while I move.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's fair.
So, I mean, so it really is just scheduling and keeping balance, and not putting my creativity aside. And I think that's so important to say out loud as an adult, because I think when we're younger, there's this like idea, and I guess maybe I've picked this up. I don't know if it's cultural, maybe people can relate to this, but that there's this window of time that you're allowed to have creativity, and then after that you have to go adult, and that might just be like my family values.
No, that is universal. I guarantee you are not alone. I am there.
And I gave myself a lot of permission in my 20s to find myself. That was like a really big deal, to find out what really was who I was. And I didn't really get that I wanted to write songs and sing them to people.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how it came out. Like, you need to write this down and sing this to people, I was like 26 or 27. And so in that period of time, I'm, in my 50s now. I'm 53, and I'm happy to say that
which you look amazing, by the way.
Thank you. But I've heard recently Jamie Lee Curtis, who I admire a lot. She had a post that we don't even begin as women sometimes to step into our powerful creativity until we're in our 50s and 60s. And so now I stepped into it. I mean, I really want to thank Judy Stakey for that retreat that changed my whole perspective. And I just started building community of collaborators and staying involved in community. That is my community, like you said earlier, that's not necessarily San Diego community. Although I have friends, I don't have collaborators here that I write with, and I haven't clicked with them. But I have clicked with you, and I've clicked with my co-writer Lori, who's in Vancouver, which Canada and Vancouver is one of my favorite places ever. And then George, our musician, he's in Pennsylvania. So it's we're in different parts of the country, and we're but we have the same creative spark in what we want to do. And we've all, my creative team, just like you, we've all been on the same track, doing the same kind of education and growth in music. And that to me is so important. So I don't want to lose it. And I want to keep the inspiration going. And so just doing this, here and supporting each other. When I see, I loved how last week or 2 weeks ago when we got together, you're like, I'm releasing a song. I'm like, no way, we just finished ours. I'm releasing mine soon too. It's so just we're so in sync with synchronicity. And when you find those people, like I feel like I have and you have in your life, and we're doing it together too. You just keep the momentum going. So like I know that at 8:30 on Friday mornings we're doing our podcast and we're doing our writing on our TV pilot. And I know on Thursdays at 10 o'clock I am meeting my co-writers.
Yep.
And then throughout the week, I do schedule in my, vocals. And I'm still in a learning curve. I'm in a learning curve right now on recording all my vocals because I'm recording them now at home, which is new for me. I've always gone to a studio. I've always gone to a producer.
Yeah.
And so, and like doing all of that. So I'm meeting myself where I'm at, going back to that.
Yep.
And just showing up. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of tools that I don't let go of no matter what. And one of them is writing every morning pages before I talk to anybody. I've been doing that since my son was 3 years old. And, using the tools of the Artist's Way, that even if I just I think one of the tools that she gave that for writers, and we're writing a big project, right? So it's hard when you see the whole project.
Yes.
Songs are so much easier because they're short. They are one page.
They're easier in some ways that they're small.
They're
short.
small.
Yeah, they're
but
short.
they're not easy. It's so different. So I'm just going
Right.
to focus on being the writer, doing this. Like if you're going to sit down and write your story, or you're going to sit down and write, do a TV pilot like we are, it's like 1 page a day. That was like her whole one, and so chunking it down. So right now on my side of what I'm supposed to be doing, it's like I can do one episode, paragraph, and that's it for right now. And it's maybe not moving us in this, and we don't have a deadline right now. Maybe we should set one,
Well, yeah, because we did have, that's a good note, because we kind of had one for end of the year last year to have things ready to pitch. And that just we realized that wasn't feasible.
Right.
So yeah, I think we just need to reset that. So that's a good.
When I move, when I'm settled in, we'll reset. Because I think there was there are things that come up, right? There's holidays.
Yeah.
There's and there's balance. I think balance is so important.
Yes.
Because I do know people who are very creative and even successful. They could be very successful, but they don't have a balance and are lonely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Creativity can become very lonely.
It can be very lonely.
If all you're doing is your work. And you're striving for that outcome. And then if that outcome doesn't happen the way you wanted it to happen, because that happens.
Which is pretty common. Yeah.
It is very common. Then I don't have the foundation of my life. I really love just what I'm doing right now. I love the balance of my life right now. So like I said, I'm happy doing the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I'm happy doing the process, then the icing on the cake is the finished product, and it came out and something happens with it. I could do what I'm doing the rest of my life is how I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people to know that, I think you and I both would love to be able to do this. And by this, I mean, whatever creative endeavors, we'd love to do it full time. I think that is a goal and a dream and a very realistic one, but we're also, very much where we are. I'm with you. I'm enjoying what I'm doing while I'm pursuing, these creative endeavors, and I'm relaxing into whatever it's supposed to be is what it's going to be. And I can't force that. I've tried. Again, trying to move to Nashville 3 different times, and I forced it and it wasn't right.
If you haven't read Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life and How to Play It, it's written in the 20s. And I did this book club with a group of women for 9 years in this book. And one of the main parts of that book is that there is literally for each and every one of us only one place in this world for us to fill, and no one else can fill it.
Yeah.
And when you find that place, you know it. Yep. And you just do it. And you can feel that I'm in my place. I'm in where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So our culture really focuses on everything has to happen in your 20s. And I know we see it in music all the time, right? The artist, the upcoming artist
Pop
has
stars.
to.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that when it comes to art and creativity, it can be at any age.
Yep.
And so it doesn't matter. I mean, I've talked about my friend too that is the artist in Illinois. She's an amazing pianist, and she later had in her life. She's 70 now. she's 73. Yeah, she's 73. She's had some eyesight issues and macular degeneration.
Yeah.
And so you know what she does? She paints big.
I love that.
She didn't give up painting.
Big.
She paints big.
I love that so much.
And she's learning how to play piano by ear. That's what you do, and she's really good. So just meeting ourselves where we're at, knowing that where I'm at, no one else can fill that space.
Yeah.
No one else is me.
Yeah.
No one else can write the songs I'm writing. No one else can do any of that. We are all doing our own thing.
Yep.
And I think we're in such an opportunity with being in that space that to me, I think, isn't there a study that like people who make like $150,000 a year are the happiest people in the world?
Something like that, yeah.
Because it's like so it's meeting all of those inner needs.
Yep.
Right? And when those inner needs are all met, then we don't have to be like striving for this outside stuff to fill that, because it doesn't work anyways. So it's like,
it doesn't. It's true.
so like meet those inner needs. And so I am surely not willing to give those up in times of chaos or times of busyness.
Agreed. Yep.
Right?
And I think that's been a big thing for me, is learning how to push through those times too, and again, all of the things that you talked about, like that's stuff that I've been going through recently as well, with, learning how to, okay, I'm in a really big bad funk. I'll be completely transparent with y'all. I mean, and Christy, you already know this, but I deal with anxiety and depression. Like it's just an unfortunate part of my life. I mean, thankfully it's getting better and I'm working through some different things, but there are days when I have a hard time. Thankfully it's not anymore, trying to get out of bed is hard. But I know people that struggle with that, but there are plenty of days when I just feel like, oh, what am I even trying to do? Why am I sitting down and working on this? Or I just don't feel like it. Like I cannot find the motivation, but then I will, I'll sit there and go, okay, well, what could you do, instead of thinking about it, I'm going to sit down and write a song. Okay, that's probably not realistic in that moment, but I could sit down and just kind of play around on my keyboard and see if I come up with a melody that I like, play, get my hands on my guitar, write down some of the themes that hey, this always comes to mind. I'm not going to write the song right now. Most of the time when I do that, I end up writing something way more than what I sat down to do, but I forced myself, okay, I would be really bummed and really unhappy if I didn't sit down and try and do something creative in that moment.
Play is the important word. I admire you to be open about anxiety and depression. And I think a lot of us as creatives go through either situational or maybe it is a chemical imbalance. And art for me and music has been an incredible outlet. And it is as a result of playing. Not really trying to do a structure of a song, but at times, like I just need to get my little, ukulele out and I'm going to make sound. Like that's just
exactly.
It.
Yeah, just sound.
And I used to tell my songwriting students this a lot. And usually, my background has been being a school teacher, and so middle school teacher. And so I'm a parent, so I'm not bagging on parents because I know that side now too. But a lot of the struggle my students had, was that they weren't given the space to just play and just make noise and to figure things out and to have fun on the instrument. So when I did the Artist's Way book the first time around when my son was 3, it was suggested at it because I was so blocked off. One of the things that jumped out at me was to just paint color.
Oh, yeah.
Just get some color. And so, you know what? I grabbed Julian, my then 3-year-old. I said, do you want to paint? We're going to do painting. And he was like painting his arm. Yeah. And I was like just doing color. And then all of a sudden my anxiety levels and it works a whole other side of my brain to do that. I have a whole bunch of paints now that when I am like really wound up, there's nothing about a song coming out. I need to ground, or I need to just, I go in there and play. I got all
love
kinds of
that.
stuff. I make all kinds of art. I love it when my artist friends come over and be like, what the heck is that? It's like, I don't know. I'm not trying to do anything.
Yeah, this is just for me. I can relate that to like I said, I'm trying to teach myself how to draw, but I realized over the last couple of years how much I like to color, coloring book pages. But I
Yeah.
love that.
And when I can do that, it like clears that channel, which maybe for our next podcast, we should talk all about clearing the channel, like the things we do. To
Ooh,
clear
I
the
love
channel.
that.
This was such a good, I think, first episode for people to get to know us, release your song, people to
Yeah.
see like where we're at as artists, who we are. You can find my stuff on Spotify.
Yeah, where were they? What it's under Christy
Under
Bruno?
Christy Bruno, and think of it as the French Bruno. So it's Bruneau. And
I'm
then,
so
of course,
excited.
Chelsea, your stuff is out.
I have
Your
my
new
first
song is out.
Yep. And Pete and I have a couple more in the works.
I
That may
can't
be-
wait. This is going to be such a fun year
Oh,
to
it
watch
is.
you.
This is and you too, like, and for us together, I'm so excited to see what happens with our TV series, and it'll be fun, the journey with our listeners, to come along with us, and we'll share as much of everything that we're working on as we can, when we can, depending on how public the knowledge is yet.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other last
Well, I
thoughts?
was just going to say, like, for our first podcast recording, kudos to us, and to any of the
We met
listeners.
ourselves where we're at.
Yes, and I think we can put some links to what we just talked about if you want to listen to any of our stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think the book that we mentioned today was The Artist's Way, which I think
Yep.
is a great book to get started. Were there any other books that we mentioned today?
I don't think there are any other books. Oh, we did mention Big Magic. We'll talk
And
about
Big
that
Magic.
more. Oh gosh, Gilbert. What is her?
Elizabeth Gilbert.
Elizabeth Gilbert is Big Magic. We'll have a link to the song. We have a YouTube video of our song too. It's not a music video in the sense that Pete and I are performing. But it is there is some visuals to it,
Yeah.
and the lyrics are on it, and the song's playing. So it's kind of fun. So we'll have links to that. And then hopefully, as soon as we have our social media up, we'll get those links. And once we have our website, we'll get all those links onto the
Yeah.
website, so y'all can like and follow along.
Coming
and,
soon.
and eventually, I know we want to get to a point where you guys are sharing with us and the community the stuff that y'all are working on. We want to support other artists. We want to get everybody out there and do to whatever level you want. If you want, again, if it's just a hobby, fantastic. Then
Yes.
but sometimes it's still just fun to share. So so thank you guys so much for being with us.
Yes.
One thing that I was feeling is just keep your eyes and ears open. Even if you're in the busiest season of your life, there's inspiration and creativity all around you. And again, with the download, you never know when a download's going to hit. So use the tools you've got. You've got voice memos on smartphones these days. You've got notepads in
Yes.
smartphones.
Thank goodness that it wasn't
Oh
always
my
the
gosh.
case.
I was the nerdy kid. Oh, I say nerdy, but probably other people did this too. But I was the nerdy kid that I wanted a handheld recorder like the doctors used to use.
I had one.
I had
a
one. I still have
dictaphone.
it.
Yeah.
And I have the teeny tiny little tapes, but thankfully now it's on my phone. So I'm out walking, Zoe,
Yeah.
and I get an idea and I can throw it down real quick. So don't along with that, don't hesitate to get an idea down, because even if it's not the most brilliant idea, you never know what's going to come from that.
Yeah.
So when something hits you and you're like, I don't know why, but I need to get this down, get it down in whatever shape, way, fashion you need to for you as an artist. So
Yeah.
so on that note, super excited. Thanks for joining us, and
The creative
All right.
download. Here we
the
come.
creative download, here we come. All right, guys, we will chat at you and podcast at you and YouTube at you next week.
Next week. All right. Have a good day.